Okay, good morning again and welcome. This is the first live session for the BFM portion of the virtual summer conference week. So I'm thrilled that you're all here this morning. I'm Ashley Wagner. I am one of your business, finance, and marketing consultants for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. My counterpart is Elizabeth Matthews, and she is busy with another session this morning. So before we get started with the information, I do want to provide you with the opening code for this session. This is a code that you will need to get credit for the session. I've typed it into the chat, but the code is 9A as in apple, U as in umbrella. So you'll need those 3 digits or figures. 9AU is the opening code for this session. So throughout the summer conference, for both virtual and in-person sessions, you will need the opening code and the closing code in order to receive credit. And then your certificates of completion will calculate based on that information. So make sure for every session you attend, you get the opening code and the closing code. So this morning's opening code is 9AU. And I'll type it into the chat one more time. So the opening code for this session, again, is 9AU. Okay, so this morning's session, I'm going to take you through the newly revised Sport and Event Marketing 1 course. So we'll go through level 1 today, and we'll go through level 2 tomorrow. I'm going to share my screen. I am going to turn my video off since I'm going to be looking all around, and I'll share my screen with you all. And as we're getting set up with the screen share and everything, if you have a question, if you will please type it into the chat and we will address questions. Okay, so to get started, I want to share with everyone the location of the curriculum. So if you have not already, you have an opportunity now to download the curriculum. So if you go to the Business, Finance, and Marketing Moodle, we've made this handy table for you so you can quickly navigate to the different courses that you need. So today we're looking at MH31, Sport and Event Marketing 1. And it'll jump right down there to the section we want. Be sure that the curriculum you download comes from the folder that says issued by NCDPI. And then you're going to download the curriculum guide that ends with 2022. The old curriculum guide will come down at the end of this week. So if you need to save anything from that old curriculum guide, maybe an activity that you like, make sure you save that by the end of this week. It will be deleted after this week. So you'll download the 2022 curriculum guide. And when you download it, it'll look like this. So before we dive into the specifics of the curriculum, I want to show you how to get to the blueprint. I've had a lot of teachers ask about the blueprint, and we no longer publish the blueprint as a document. Instead, we put everything on the CMS. So the course management system is the one-stop shop for all things CTE. I've put a link to the site in the chat. I highly recommend that you take this link and bookmark it and use it on a regular basis. It has everything that you need. So when you go to the CMS, you want to make sure it should say 22-23, but just make sure that it does to make sure you're in the most current version. And in the search box, we're just going to type in, you can type in the course code and it'll pop up. You can also just type in the word sport and it'll start, we can see it brings up everything that has the word sport, but you can see it brings up the results you need. So when we click on MH31 Sport and Event 1, we are going to click first on course information. So when we click on course information, that's going to show us the kind of the information that you need in order to communicate with counselors, with students, with parents. It's going to have all the information that you need. So on this page, you can see it has the course description, which is very brief. You can see that it is in a pilot status for this school year. It is adapted. It comes from the MBA Research, Sport, and Event course. And the proof of learning is a PBM. And we'll talk more through that in just a little bit. We have the recommended maximum enrollment. This is what we believe is the maximum for this course. Students receive 1 credit. It is not inherently honors. There is no prerequisite. And then these are the career clusters and the pathway levels that this course falls into. And then you can also see that it aligns to DECA and FBLA, and it has various work-based learning alignments. So this is the course information. So if you ever need this to share with counselors, administrators, parents, or students, this is a public-facing website. You can always point them to this page. So I'm going to return to the main page. Our selection for Sport and Event Marketing 1 is still here, and now I'm going to click on Course Standard. And for those of you who have just joined us, I am on the CMS, the Course Management System. I'll put it in the chat again. I'll also add the opening code for you, so you can type that in to get credit. So I'm going to click Course Standards. And this is where you will find the blueprint. So this is where you will find all of the standards, all of the indicators, the percentages, the RBT, Revised Bloom's Taxonomy designation, and the employability skills. I will tell you that because we're in a pilot year, we have a little bit of flexibility as we work through this year on these percentages. So I will be seeking your feedback throughout the school year to find out if this is enough weight, not enough weight, if things should be shifted in one direction or another. So please be thinking about that as you move through this pilot year for this course. So we'll go through the blueprint. Standard 1, understand the fundamentals of sport and event industries. And this is where we get into career opportunities, the economic impacts on communities, and motivational factors for attending and participating in sports and events. Oh, and I guess I should address the elephant in the room. We did change the name, so you will hopefully notice that it is no longer sports and entertainment. It has changed to sport and event marketing. And there are 2 big reasons for that change. The first is that we sought out input from business and industry leaders, and they felt very strongly that the word entertainment no longer fully aligned with the goals of this course, because in theory, sports are entertainment. And when we're talking about marketing of sports, we're talking about marketing of the entertainment of sports. So they just felt like it wasn't the right description, and that in the industry, it is more often referred to as sport without the S on the end, and usually event marketing. So you will notice that as a change with the name, and we believe that that is reflected in the course content as well. So standard 2, understand sport and event marketing. This is when we get into the definitions of what it means to market a sport or an event, talking about target marketing, segmentation, and trends in the industries. Standard 3, understand the importance of marketing data. This was another big piece from our friends in the business and industry sectors, that understanding how data impacts decisions is really important. So you'll notice this in level 1 and level 2, that marketing data is a very important piece of it. understand how sport and events are branded. So we get into sponsorships, endorsements, and licensing in standard 4. And standard 5 is promotion. So we look at advertising media, outside of the box promotions, and digital media. So every standard is 20%. We do understand that that might not be appropriate as we move forward, but we wanted to use this pilot year to really figure out just how much time is needed to teach each of these standards. So like I said, I will be seeking your feedback throughout the year to find out if we need to adjust some of these percentages. But for right now, they're all equal, and that's gonna be our starting point. So this is, again, is the CMS. This is where you will find your standards. You can download it as a CSV file to open up into Microsoft Excel, but it's all right here on the CMS. Okay, are there any questions about where to find the curriculum on the Moodle or anything about the CMS? And again, you can type that in the chat if you need to. Okay, great. All right, we'll move into the meat of the curriculum. So this is the cover for the Sport and Event Marketing Curriculum Guide. A new feature that we have added into both Sport 1 and Sport 2 this year is the table of contents. We hope this will make navigating through the guide a little bit easier, because you will have the ability to go straight to Standard 1, straight to Standard 5, or straight to the PBM guide. So we hope that this makes navigating through this 117-page document a little simpler by having a table of contents that you can quickly navigate to the sections that you want. I am going to scroll through this document. I hope to not make you too dizzy. I'll try not to go back and forth too much. So in the introduction, this is where you will still find the link to the course management system. You can also find a link to the NC-CTE admin if you are seeking the equipment and technical guide for this course. So both of these are hyperlinked in the guide, and a summary of the standards are also here in the introduction. Then we go through the acknowledgements. I do want to take a moment to recognize our 5 rock star teachers who served on the curriculum team for both of these courses. We have Eric Kane, Jennifer Cragg, Tiffany Falgione, Megan Moore, and Kimberly Wilcox. These 5 teachers worked remarkably well together throughout the last year to really do a good job revising these courses. All of these teachers have had a vast amount of experience teaching Sport 1 and Sport 2, so they brought a lot of insight to the table, and they have some really creative ideas. So we're really, I'm just thrilled with the work that these 5 people did. Prior to the teachers getting their hands on the curriculum, we sought out input from business and industry. So we had a panel of people who specialize in post-secondary education, and then we had a panel of business and industry. And you can see that the people that we spoke with are experts in sport and event marketing. Mandy Bowers from Pitt Community College and Dr. Jensen from UNC both gave insight onto how they teach these courses at the post-secondary level. And then we had a variety of people from a lot of different corners of the sport and event industries give their input as well. So we had really good conversations with these people for them to share with us just how they see different aspects of this industry. So they helped us to narrow down some of our standards. So their time is greatly appreciated, and I want to make sure that you all understand that we do go out to the industry to get input. And then we have our CTE staff and an explanation of CTSO integration. We picked these 3 DECA events as the ones that are most aligned to what our course covers. But of course, there are pieces of other DECA and FBLA events that align as well. We did select a PBM for this course. We felt like students will have an opportunity to demonstrate their mastery of the course through a PBM, and then that was a better fit than a state assessment or a credential. So here we get into the information for MBA research. We do offer the list of LAPs, so you can see which LAPs align to specific indicators for the curriculum. You will probably see that some of these LAPs are pretty familiar, and several of them have been updated recently. So please make sure you pay attention to the copyright date for the LAPs, that you make sure you're using the most up-to-date version. We do strongly recommend that before teaching, you download the LAPs and have those ready to go. If you are not familiar with using LAPs, there is a session at 11 o'clock called Getting Started with MBA Research, and Michelle Bardsley will be leading that session at 11 o'clock. So please, if you have a moment to join that, we encourage you to join that session. And then we break down the way the curriculum guide is organized. So the teacher's information here shows you exactly which, what the purposes of each section are. So the resources table is going to list the LAPs. It'll also provide an ethics case. Not every indicator will have a LAP or an ethics case, but if it is offered, it is listed at the very beginning. If there is a project, it is listed here under resources as well. And if it has a direct connection to the PBM, it is listed here as well. The unpacked content is when you really get into the meat of what you will be teaching. So for each indicator, so for like 1.01, 1.02, there are learning objectives, and the learning objectives will have either an activity and or special instructions. If there is an activity, you can expect to either find that activity in the lab, or you can find that activity further down within that indicator section. The special instructions are designed for the teacher. So this is what the teacher needs to understand before delivering this information. You will notice that the Chem chart has been the vocabulary activity of choice for us for this course. You can see that we explain on this page how to do the Chem chart, and we give you resources for seeking out definitions, including the MBA Research Dictionary and the Marketing Dictionary as well. So for the Chem chart, that's listed here, and it's referred to in each of the indicators. And it's most often you're going to find the vocabulary as learning objective A, if applicable. So then we get into all of the material. So I'm not going to go through every indicator with you because we have 117 pages, but I wanted to show you the setup. So here we have standard 1, indicator 1.01, and then we have our learning objectives. So further down here, you'll see it does have a lab, and it's listed here. It does have an ethics case. There is not a project listed for 1.01. This does not mean you can't add a project. You have full authority to add a project if you see fit, and it does have a PBM connection, so you can find that in the PBM. And as we start to break down the learning objectives, letter A is our vocabulary, and we recommend, again, the Chem chart. This is totally optional, though. If you have a vocabulary activity that you like better, please, by all means, use the vocabulary activity that works best for you and your students. For B and C, we are recommending that you use the LAPs for the total recalls, part A and B. And in the special instructions, it explains that students should read the student handout before attempting the total recall. And then we have an activity called Career Quest with some special instructions. And you can see that this I'm sorry, let me go down a little bit more. So for objectives E, F, and G, we are recommending the 1.01 activity, How Do I Get Started? So anytime there is an activity that goes across 2 or more learning objectives, we indicated that here. So you can see nothing is listed for letter F because we cover E, F, and G with this one activity. Okay, so that's indicated where applicable. So let's go down and look at that activity. So 1.01 activity is called How Do I Get Started? And they will start with the information they used from the 1.01 Career Quest activity. So if you are using this, be sure to read the instructions and understand that they are expected to do Career Quest first and then move into this activity. For many of the activities, you will see that in the guide, it doesn't often specify a deliverable format. So this is where you, as the teacher, this is a Word document. If you would prefer all of your students to create a brochure, you have the ability to go in and say, create a brochure. It doesn't necessarily have to keep this wording just like we have it. We just wanted to make sure we gave teachers enough flexibility and autonomy to make those decisions for themselves. There is one more thing I want to show you within. Oh, I want to highlight the additional resources. So at any point, if one of our curriculum team members used another resource to either develop an activity or to get some information, all of those resources are listed here. Some of the information came straight from the lab, and others are things that the curriculum team member researched themselves. So if at any point you're not sure where they got some of this information, or you're not sure about where to send your students, then your additional resources is going to be your first stop. That might save you a little bit of time for Googling things yourself. And we do understand that links break. So please understand that these links were accurate and active as of, I'd say, mid-June of 2022. So we all know that the internet can be kind of wonky sometimes, so please forgive us if links break. You can send me an email and let me know, and I will take the measures to correct that. And you can always post that on the Moodle as well. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about the curriculum guide with the format? I'm going to jump down to the PBM. Okay, Frank, do you have a question?
Yeah. The labs for direct instruction, you know, they have the PowerPoints that
Yes.
is as a guided note, but once we get beyond the lab for various objectives, are we going to have to just create the PowerPoints from scratch or what?
Yes, we did not create PowerPoint presentations. So the majority of the information from the labs can be used, of course, but we did not create any PowerPoints. It's just the curriculum guide.
Okay, so we have roughly 11 labs, right? I think it was like 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
So generally when I go through those labs, we can get through those pretty quickly.
Okay.
And pretty comprehensively. I noticed in here that that again, with those, in terms of asking the questions, the post-test and all, I suspect, I know there's been some revisions, but I suspect the answers are already available on the internet. And so just as in the past, the students will just go out to Quizlet to get the answers.
The answers for
The various quizzes and post-test and pre-test for the labs.
for the labs. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Everyone, the MBA labs are used nationwide, so if anyone has posted those to the internet, then yes, they would be searchable, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of pacing. So I'm
Okay.
trying to say, okay, I know how much time it takes me traditionally to get through an individual lab.
Okay.
And is there, with those labs now, with the new curricula, with this new curricula, is there an expectation that that should take a longer amount of time?
No, not particularly. With each lab, the curriculum team members have pinpointed specific activities within the labs that they believed were most appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, but you have the ability to make the decision to either add more onto that or to scale that down. So you have the ability as the teacher to make those decisions for your students.
Okay. So then in terms of the objectives that are not directly aligned to a particular lab,
Yes.
that do not draw on a particular lab,
Yes.
will, in terms of reusability of material with the old curricula, is there any alignment there that we can draw from the former curricula?
So we have not done a crosswalk between the old and the new, but that's why you still have a little bit of time to compare the two. There are a couple of activities that curriculum team members pulled from the old curriculum and updated. So if something like that was appropriate, then that was done. But I will tell you, I think that was only done maybe twice. And the activity was updated to make sure it reflected the changes. So I will show you, here's 1.02. This does not have a lap. So we tried to make sure that there was enough information and enough activities to appropriately cover the content. So if there's not a lab, then we made sure to offer plenty of activities and resources so that you have enough to teach to really drive those points home.
Okay.
And I see, Tanya, thank you for your question. I think there may be, Tanya, there could be, if you will, I think I noticed that there is an error on the wording for one of the PBM sections. So,
Can you hear me, Ashley?
I can, Tanya.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning. So, so specifically, if you look at page 2 of the curriculum guide, and you see where it says under resources, it says PBM connection, page 2. Yep,
Yes.
right there. You see it says job postings.
Yeah.
That what is that? Because that's not a
Yeah,
PBM
you're
section.
right. You're right. And I honestly, I think that's an error. So let's look at that when we get down to the PBM.
Okay.
So thank you for
Okay.
catching that. I think that was an oversight. We had that. That's an error. So thank you for
Okay.
bringing that up.
Okay.
Yeah. And to that point, so thank you, Tanya, for bringing that up. I do want to just ask for a little bit of grace that this is a document created by humans. So, and trust me, we had dozens of eyes go over this document numerous times, but things still fall through the cracks, which is why we have a pilot year. So we are hoping that with all of you looking through this and catching things that don't quite make sense or things that don't quite align, that you will bring those things to our attention. So thank you, Tanya, for bringing that up. And please, if you find something like that, please don't shy away from bringing that up to us. Like I said, this is why we have a pilot year, is to work out the kinks and make sure that things are good. We are always striving to have the best products that we can for you all in terms of curriculum. Okay, so I'm going to jump down to the PBM, and I will let you know that next week during the face-to-face section of the, or portion of the summer conference, the curriculum team members are going to do a deep dive into all of these standards. So that will be the benefit of attending the face-to-face session. It is next Wednesday at 8 a.m. for level 1, and then I believe it's 10 a.m. for level 2. So strongly encourage you to attend those sessions so that you can get a better understanding of the curriculum. So this is the PBM, the performance-based measurement, and this is what we chose to be our proof of learning. So you will notice this course no longer has a state assessment. We are no longer supporting the item banks or the questions. If you still choose to use them as classroom assessments or opportunities to check for understanding, you have the ability to do that, but please understand the state is no longer supporting those test item banks. So you can see here where the PBM components align to specific indicators. There are 5 main components of the PBM. So we have event details, engagement, marketing data, branding, and promotions. And they align pretty directly with the order of the indicators. You'll notice here there's a little bit of back and forth between standard 1 and standard 2. And that's really just because of how it makes sense for the PBM. The course proficiency, students must earn 75 points of the maximum 108 to reach proficiency. And then the goal of this PBM is for students to create a professional proposal for an original event. And here again, we are giving you, the teachers, the authority and the autonomy and the flexibility to decide the format of this PBM. You can opt to have the students do a presentation that hopefully they are familiar with doing. They could also just submit a portfolio, they could do a website, or they could type it out as a document. So you have options for the format for this PBM. We do recommend that you keep it consistent between students. That will just make it easier for you to grade. But we understand that, let's say a student is very active in DECA and they want to do something that will work for a DECA competition, then they may need to do like a Word document to meet the DECA requirements. If you as a teacher are comfortable with having students work on a website using Wix or Weebly or Google Sites, then a website may be appropriate for you. So again, you have the authority and the autonomy to make those decisions. So that's the teacher information. It's pretty straightforward. For student information, this is what you could give your students as the handout for this PBM. So it sets the scene to explain that stakeholders are seeking proposals for a new event in the area. You are to assume the role of event marketer. So it's the student's job to develop a proposal so that stakeholders can review the details of your event. Now, it does say in the student instructions to present your event idea to the stakeholders. Again, we are not dictating what that present looks like. So it could simply mean presenting them with a document and that's it. For this PBM, there is not a presentation component. So students are not being evaluated on a presentation. So they will go through event details, the engagement, the marketing data, branding, and promotions, but there is not a portion of this that is a presentation. And we have a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we heard a lot of feedback from especially marketing teachers who were going through the PBM, and they often have classes of 30 or more, and it was becoming very difficult to schedule and fit in all of the presentations for all of the students. But and so we decided that we would take the presentation component out of level 1. You will find the level 2 has a presentation, and we understand that enrollment in level 2 is typically a little bit lower, and teachers typically have fewer sections of level 2. So we hope that that's more manageable in level 2. Plus, we understand that level 2 students should be ready for that level of preparation to do a presentation. Does anyone have any questions? I think I saw someone Frank, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I'm just commenting. I commonly have maxed out level 2 classes or classes, 28, 29, 30 students in the level 2.
Right.
So I also, in terms of doing presentations in the past, I encounter, I guess my question concerning the presentation, this is looking ahead to the level 2 course. For the IEPs, I'll have students, some have anxiety issues, and then I've gotten requests from their counselors to find some other activity than a presentation for them.
Yes.
How do we handle that?
So we recommend that you work with the student's case manager and your special populations coordinator to figure out what's best for that student. So there's not a one size fits all solution there. So you will need to work with the people who know your student, and you can help them understand your curriculum to figure out a good solution for that student.
Okay.
And that's another reason why we, even in the courses that have PBMs, that have presentations, that we tried not to specify that it has to be in front of the entire class, or it has to be, we tried to give some flexibility. So if a student wanted to do a one-on-one presentation with just you, or if they wanted to do it virtually, there's flexibility to do that. I see some questions in the chat. The PBM connections, Tanya, I'll work on getting that corrected before the end of this week. So you can plan to pull that back down at the end of the week, and it should be good to go. Okay.
Your next question, Ashley, was, are you able to do your PBM in groups, or is it an individual project?
Thank you, Beth. It is individual. So the PBMs are evaluating individual students on their proficiency. So it has to be done individually. Now, I have heard of some teachers who have very creative solutions for portions of the PBM to be done in groups, whether that means they're doing some brainstorming in groups. There is some flexibility, but it has to be evaluated individually.
Okay. Next question is, has anyone put this course into Canvas or Google Classroom that they are willing to share? And I'm sure Ashley probably doesn't know that answer yet.
So
if they are.
No idea. And honestly, I would caution you, I would wait for that for just a little bit. No one has taught this version of the course yet, so I would be careful, or maybe a little cautious to pull other things from other people. Wait to figure out how it works best for you and your students, because it is new and it will be changing.
Next one is, will the presentation be taken out of the other PBMs? I'm assuming that means for other courses, Teresa. That's probably on a course by course basis.
Right. So
who
no,
revises it.
Right. The presentation is not being removed from other courses. We have a few revisions for some other PBMs, but no, the presentation has not been eliminated from the ones that already exist.
Okay. thank you.
And last one I see, are we able to have students work on this the whole semester?
Absolutely. The curriculum team members felt very strongly that this PBM should have some flexibility to either be, semester long or year long, depending on your schedule, or if it was going to be doable in like the last 2 weeks of the semester. So even within our own curriculum team, within those 5 teachers who worked on it, they plan on tackling this in different ways. So you have the flexibility to incorporate it from the get-go, or to wait until the end, or to bring it in halfway through, whatever you think it works best for you and your students, and how you can best manage your classroom. You have flexibility there. Great questions. All right, I'm going to scroll down to look at the rubric. So each of the sections from up here, each 5 of the sections has its own area of the rubric, and you will notice that point values are different for the different components, and that's based on the course weight, and it's also based on the work that students will have to do for that section. So we wanted to make sure that students, if they were really having to be creative and think outside the box, that they were going to be awarded with more points for that. Down here, you'll notice this is a little bit different. We have grayed out the 3-point and 7-point options for advertising media. For this, we went back and forth, but I'll explain that we really wanted there to be, did the student create 2 examples? Did they do a good job on that? There's really no like in between without evaluating for creativity and things that would be a little bit more subjective. This right here is they either have the promotion or they don't. They either created 2, or they created 1, or they created none. So this is a little bit different than some of our existing PBM rubrics. But we wanted to take out any, ironically, we wanted to take out some gray area by adding in some gray areas for the pieces that we just, if a student doesn't quite meet the creative caliber of other students, that doesn't mean that they don't reach proficiency on that. They still understand what advertising media is, but they may not have that creativity, and we really wanted to take that subjectivity out of it. So that's the rubric. It's 2 pages. And then the PBM accountability form is the same as every other PBM. And this is what you will submit to your CIMC for documentation. And that is the PBM. And next week during our in-depth deep dive session, we will go through the PBM a little bit more, and the curriculum team members are going to talk a little bit about how they plan to tackle the PBMs in their classes. All right, what questions do you have? I don't see anything else in the chat.
Well, I was a little slow typing.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because I'll just ask it. On the social media portion, the 2 social media advertisements, is that
Yes.
student choice? I mean, are we likely to be getting hit with stuff from TikTok, Instagram, and whoever knows what else is out there?
So part of that, on that piece, in 5.03, there's a social media activity that has a template. So we are not expecting students to go out and create an Instagram account for this fictional event. There's a template they will use to basically create a fake Instagram account. So they're not actually going out to the social media websites, because we understand that different school districts have different rules and we don't want to incriminate any of that. So no, they're not actually making an account. They're making a fictional, a fake account, if you will. So that's tied into a 5.03 activity. And there's a template there for you to use. Let's see, there's a question going back to the labs. If an objective has a lab, does the lab contain all the information to teach that objective? Kelly, it does. And if there is something else that needs to be brought in, then that information is there for you. So even if the lab has, let's say 90% of it, if there's something else that's missing, then we did our best to make sure that it was included. Thank you, Kelly. Okay. Last call for questions. You can unmute yourself, or oh, there's a Q&A. Oh, okay. I saw your question in two places, Kelly. Thank you.
Ashley,
Yes.
did you say that no one has taught this course at all? It wasn't taught last semester for
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. We had some of our curriculum team members, they tried, like they kind of played around with some of the activities, but no, we did not have a small pilot group of teachers. So this is brand new.
Since we are in pilot for the PBM, will we do the same thing that we usually do, like in pilot mode? When they took the state exam, you know, they would, whoever made the highest would be changed to 100, and then all the others.
Right. You know, that's actually, I've never had that question before. I would take that to your director and your CIMC to find out what they think. I haven't heard that. You're the first one who has asked that question, so I'm not sure. But I would, whatever you do, I would make sure it's consistent across your district.
Okay, thank you.
And as I mentioned, there are there is at least one spot that needs to be updated and corrected on the curriculum guide. So I will make sure that that gets corrected and posted to the Moodle by the end of this week. So please, I appreciate your patience as we work through some of those issues. Okay, I'm going to add the closing code to the chat box. Today's closing code is H6S as in Steve. So you will use that to put in, comes full circle, opening code, closing code. And if you have any issues or questions with the app or the agenda or in the conference in general, you can contact the email address that I just put in the chat. The recording, they are hoping to get the recordings available within 24 hours, I believe, and post it, and then you will have 1 month to view the recordings. They will be available until August 12th. Okay. Well, I thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you for being here and taking some time from your summer to be a part of this.